question, so I want to make sure I give enough time for Jeff.
All right, thank you. I'll tell you to kind of echo what Janet and Freedom and Detective Jones also said about the device-free dinner table. We implemented that in our house when our kids had iPads and Kindles or Kindle Fires or whatever it was before then. And I got to be honest, I think it was harder for my wife and I than it was for my kids. I mean, but their devices may not be blowing up, but I think that our devices are meant to do that. You know, it's meant to grab your attention. That's why we have notifications, so that when you get a Facebook like or a tweet or a retweet or a text or whatever, it's notifying us so we can go look at it. And so it's almost kind of that addiction. And so it is hard. It's gotten better for my wife and I. And then the dinner table rule goes out to the restaurant rule. Like, we don't allow devices, and sometimes that is really hard when the service is really slow. It's like, my kids are 11, I have twins, they're in 5th grade now, but there's times like, oh my gosh, like we can't keep them entertained anymore, like we've done everything we could possibly do. And so that's been hard thing. But then it's like, then we pulled out some things on our phone. So we have like the tic-tac-toe app or the dots app. Then we will, try to entertain that way, so to help bypass the time. The other rule that I implemented, and my kids really didn't like it, but my parents now have moved to Naples full time, so it doesn't really apply much. But if we're in the car for less than an hour, there are no devices. So we're not going to be on our iPad or our smartphones or anything like that. My kids don't have smartphones, by the way. I think they're the only 5th graders in the district from what I hear from them. I told them I don't think so. And I do like to joke with them because I'm like, you need a phone. Well, you see Grandpa's phone's a flip phone? We can get you one of those. And they're like, ah. And I'm like, oh, you need a smartphone? Well, you have an iPad, so I can get you that phone and just take off the App Store. I mean, we could just make it just a phone, and you can text and you can phone, but you can't download apps. I'll just take off the App Store. So they've kind of backed off right now. They think maybe I need to have a cooling off period. But we don't allow devices in the car when we're going to be less than an hour. And my dad we're right at that 1 hour marker. So they're like, oh my gosh, we got to go to Martinsville. Are you kidding me? We can't use our devices. Now the Chicago rule is in effect. Like, all right, that's 3 hours, or the last time I went 5 hours. That is when we'll allow 4 devices, but then it's also in moderation. And my kids are still 11 years old, and we still drive. I have family on the East Coast, both directions, 8 hours both ways, either if I'm going to North Carolina or if I'm going to Maryland. And so we have those, and we still play the alphabet game or whatnot. We still have conversations. They can watch a movie if they want to watch a movie. And sometimes I like it because I'll plug the sound into the speaker so I can listen to the movie, because sometimes the music just not so great. So those are things that we do. But even then, I work in the technology department and I'm still not perfect. I still have to work with my kids and I still have to learn and keep up with them and all of that. But there are some tools that have helped along the way that I have done or other people in our district have done or even families have shared, and I want to go ahead and share them. By all means, they're not any perfect ways, but they are some helpful things. And the first one is your iTunes account and iTunes family sharing. iTunes family sharing, I believe, came out with iOS 10, so about 3 years ago. And it really has changed the way that we did apps. So in the past, we either created our kids an iTunes account, which we probably lied about the birthday back then, or we put our own iTunes account on there. And early on, we said, your kids don't have to have the iTunes password, because they're not going to be asked right then and there to download the app. Our teachers know that not everybody's going to have the password, but they have to give time for the families to be able to do it. So that's difficult. So we'd say that they don't have to have the iTunes password. I did put down below, like if for whatever or somewhere, I rearranged this today, and so it's somewhere on there. Maybe I put it somewhere else. But if you put your own, you didn't create an iTunes account and you put your own iTunes account on your kid's iPad, you just got to be careful what that does. Apple makes everything convenient. I sign into my brand new phone, everything downloads. Everything comes over, text messaging, pictures, all of that. So if you're using the same account that's on your phone, you want to make sure that you have things turned off on your kid's iPad, and you'll want to regularly check that. I had to call a we don't have any kids here, do we? No. I had to call a parent, this is 2 years ago, who had their own iTunes account on their child's iPad. And I had to say, hey, I don't know if you realize, but all your text messages are coming through. They know what they're getting for Christmas. So just FYI, they saw the text between you and your spouse, and so they know about the gifts. I just want to give you that heads up. You might want to change some settings. All right? And so that's what I didn't want to spoil Christmas for kids. We had to have that conversation. But I also had to have the conversation with the parent that said, hey, by the way, Dad, that text your buddy sent you with the picture that was very inappropriate, yeah. What's your kid's iPad? Now, fortunately, the teacher saw it, and we were able to get it removed and clean it all up and talk to Dad through about we're going to take the count off and all that stuff. My guess is he did come to parent-teacher conference that year. So we've had a few of those conversations. But when iTunes Family Share came out, it did help. Now the downside is if the iPad in your house is the only Apple device that you have, it's going to make it very complicated. You really can't do much with Family Share because you need to have a parental iPhone, iPad, or Mac computer to run it from. But what it does is I have my iTunes account, and then I enroll my kid into it as a child. Now, this works if they have their own account already. I can enroll them as a child, and then what happens is that my kid can still go to the iTunes store, and they can know that password, and they can request an app. They can't buy it, they request. And then a notification comes on my phone as well as my wife's, and then we look at it. Do we want to go ahead and approve it, yes or no? And it tells it very clear, a free app, or a paid app, or an in-app purchase. So it makes it really clear to know what you're going to go ahead and say yes or no to. And so that does help. Then the students can have their iTunes app. If the teacher says everybody's going to need the NWA app, they can type it in and search it at school and request it, and then we could approve it down the road. But you have to have another Apple device to be able to do so. And so that has really helped with managing apps. There is one other button that if you do that, you might want to go ahead and look at your settings because it says, do you want to share your apps with your kids? So I purchase an app, a paid-for app, I can then allow my kids to also put on their iPad. That could be good. Or they might see apps that maybe you don't want them to see. Maybe it's that you have Match.com or something like that on your phone, or you download that you don't want them to be downloading or whatever. So you can choose to turn that on or turn that off. You can also choose to share your music. Maybe you have some explicit music, no judgment, on your phone that you want them downloaded to their phone. So you do have that capability in the settings. And so there are directions. The great thing is Apple has put everything out there. I know I say it's the second bullet point that says, make sure you check your messages, photos, and all that. But Apple does put directions out there on how to manage and set up iTunes Family Sharing. Yep.
Obviously, we're an iPad environment for K, but if you have a personal device, or your kids have personal devices that are Android-based, Google does offer the same type of family sharing. What do you guys prefer? Anything from Google Store.
The next thing that just came out, and I think they're making it better, is screen time. So screen time came out with iOS 11, I believe. And that is that we used to have restrictions. We still have restrictions where you can turn off certain features or turn on certain features or rate certain content. But screen time then came out. And so this is a screenshot taken yesterday of what are the settings on, or not all the settings, but on my daughter's account. So I would go into screen time, and because I have Family Share, I have both my kids already listed. And I go ahead, and it's also, again, that if you have another Apple device that you can manage this from, I can go ahead and see, this was at 3:49 p.m., that they have already spent 2 hours and 24 minutes on their device. So that's the end of the day, and so with about an hour almost after school time on their device. So again, that rationale that they spend 8 hours on their iPad at school, not necessarily true. But I can also then see that 50 minutes was in the category of education, 44 minutes was in the category of other, and 27 minutes was in the category for reading and reference. And I guess that was Achieve 3000, because we had to read some articles last night. But then the second thing is downtime. When do their apps turn off? And so right now, downtime is set in my household from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. That means that they can't access their apps. I mean, they're there, they're kind of grayed out. If it's like a Friday night and we're doing something they want to have just a few more minutes, they can hit request time, and you get a notification where you say no, 15 minutes, 1 hour, or the rest of the day. Or you can do it on their iPad. I forgot, screen time. I take back. If you don't have another Apple device, you can set the screen time up on their iPad. You just manage it with a different PIN that they don't know. And so then when you set up limits, if they need to request more time, they bring the iPad to you and you put in the PIN and then say that same thing. You can set app limits. Maybe you only want them to use Fortnite for 25 minutes. I don't think that's long enough for some of those battles, though. Just FYI. That might have been a learning function from my side. You might want to say what apps are always allowed. So like for me right now, instant messaging is always allowed because I want them to be able to send me a message if they're at a friend's house or whatnot, and I don't want that to turn off. And then there's also the restrictions that have always been on iPads. You want to block mature content or whatever. You can turn that, do some of those things. You want to disable apps. You want to like turn off. You want to turn off messaging. You can disable that. So that's set up. It can be set up through your family share account from your device and pushed to your kids' devices, or you can set it up individually if you don't have an iPad or a device on there. So you can deal with that. There's also in the restrictions I put, you can restrict that they can't install apps. Or you can restrict that they can't delete apps, or you can restrict that they can't go after in-app purchases. That's just another setting to help with some of those things. Again, we prefer that we have that ongoing communication and we have some of those dialogues, and we really do want kids to learn how to self-regulate themselves. But sometimes this can also help. This does prevent my kids from getting up in the middle of the night and playing on their iPads. We do have one central charging station in the kitchen, and actually I got really tired of my kids, more on the weekends, when their battery got low, they just sat against the wall, and they plugged in, and they were playing on their games. I kind of told them, like, if your battery's gone, like maybe you've been on it too much, or maybe that's a learned lesson to plug in at night. I took away all the bricks. The bricks are in a container that we get out when we travel. There is one outlet that is USB in my kitchen. So you need power, that's where it's going. So they can't plug it into their bedroom, they can't plug it anywhere else because there's not a brick for them to use. So that's just another tip. I think I'm the meanest parent out there. At least that's what I'm talking. So that's screen time. That has helped. That just came on, I believe, maybe even last year. But that has helped with families regulating, and as well as some of those things is you can kind of check in to see what are they doing at school and what are some of the apps and stuff that they're going to. They're still, I mean, it's really hard. Like, how was your school today? What'd you do? Nothing. What'd you do? And so sometimes I'll look at screen time and it's like, all right, well, tell me what you read on Achieve, because I saw that you did something at school with that. Or how are you doing with Freckle? Or what did you do with this website? It takes pride, because really all I hear about is lunch and recess right now. The next tip. You don't have to have your own phone. This is like almost like parent homework. Unless you have installed, which we'll get there in a few minutes, a monitoring app, monitoring VPN. Go to your kid's iPad and hit settings. That's all you have to do. Settings. And just be at the top. You will see airplane mode. You will see Wi-Fi. You will see Bluetooth, and that's all I hope you see. If you see VPN, even though it may say not connected, that means that there is a VPN app on that iPad. What does a VPN do? It takes you around your network. And that's good things for the business world. So I have things that I can only access on HSE's network. So I have a VPN, as you can see, on my device. All right, and then I can then hop on and get to some resources I need. Kids kids don't have VPNs because they're trying to get to some educational resource. They have a VPN because it will bypass the firewalls. So we block games, all right? Clash of Clans is not accessible for the kids to play. I don't know if kids play that anymore.
You mean we as an HSE?
Yes, we, HSE. HSE does. So they can't get to it to play. Or Fortnite, or Madden Mobile. I use Madden Mobile because I got persuasive essays as why to unblock it. So they didn't work. So the VPN is a way to bypass the firewall. So if you see VPN here, it'll tell you what the apps are. You can search it and remove it. It means they downloaded it. All right. I thought that was a junior high thing, and now it's trickling down to the elementaries. They're hearing about it. So that's just one thing to check. It's just for kids' sake, unless you put it on their device for a parental control outside the network, or when they're outside your home, you might want to get rid of those.
Yeah, we see VPNs all the time. We really do. And they've gotten so complex we can't block them. They're so encrypted that we can't even see that traffic going through it. But I would keep that in mind. That made a really good point. Because if they can bypass our network, they can bypass yours. So I absolutely would recommend checking your student's device to see if there's any VPN on there.
So then we go about, yes.
So if there is one, what do we do?
It's an app.
Okay.
You want to delete the app.
Just delete it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an app. You can just delete it. All right. Hotspot Shield, Tunnel Bear. Although Tunnel Bear is probably not, because you have to pay for. You don't get much, and you have to pay for it. So they're probably not doing that.
If you go to the App Store or the Google Play, whatever you use, Google Play Store, and you search for VPN, there are a number of them up. That'll give you just an idea of what to look for.
Next, let's talk. You gotta wake up the computer goes to sleep, the projector goes off. Like intermission. That projector went out last week, so we did a mass, we're not gonna change the location for this meeting, let's quickly get a projector. It's not completely installed, it's just made to work. All right, so then what can we do at home? And so again, there's just a number of opportunities. So again, the iPads are filtered when they're at school, unless they have a VPN, their bypassing are filtered. But once they leave the school, they're no longer filtered. Some of the things you can do is, do you password protect your Wi-Fi wireless router, and maybe the kids don't have access to it. I did have one dad tell me that he doesn't know anything about technology, but he knows that his wireless router needs power. And so when he leaves for work, the power cord goes with him. So when they come home, no power to the router, no internet till my kids get home. So even if you don't know anything about technology, you take the power cord. Some routers will have the options of when you can turn Wi-Fi on and off, such as Comcast. You can dig into the settings and you can say, I'm going to turn it off. They've now kind of kept up with the game. You can pause devices in Comcast. I don't have Metronet. I think that they might have some parental controls in there, and I believe AT&T Uverse does as well.
Comcast is XV. That's an app you can get so you can control it. If you're not at home, you can pause any device you want if you're not there. Kids don't like that.
What's it called?
But certainly,
If you have Comcast Internet, Comcast Xfinity Internet, the app is XFi, so XFI is the app that you would want to search. Comcast has a lot of apps, but it's the XFI app that you can then start setting up some internet restrictions. That's for your internet at home. This is one resource. There are a number of filtering options outside that you can subscribe to and all of that. OpenDNS is a filtering company that works with companies as well as home. And it allows you to do some type of filtering. And they have this set up guides. Some of the subscriptions are free, and then some of it is a pay-for subscription. So the free one will filter that specific iPad while it's at your house, or will filter all devices while they're on your network. And then the paid, you do have a little bit more controlling and customization to it. That's one that we've had people use in the past. Another couple ones that we have seen, which obviously is getting a little bit more popularity. One is we have more and more apps popping up that will allow you to put time limits, to allow you to filtering and bedtime and pauses and do some insights to what they're trafficking. One is Circle with Disney. It comes out. It's $129 for the unit, which is a square box, which still perplexes me because it's called Circle. But it's $129. Once you buy it, That's all you're done paying for. It's very easy. You put an app on your phone. It's like 3 steps. You pair it to your Wi-Fi, and then you're done. And then you can then set up controls in there. When to turn off the internet, when to pause the internet, when to do different things. It doesn't turn off the iPad. So I can pause. I have Circle at my house. I have the first generation. I can pause it at my house right now, but they can then still play Minecraft because that doesn't require internet for certain things. They can still play Madden Mobile or any other games that don't require internet. So it's just really an internet-based unit. And then there is a subscription model if you want to have it go with them outside the house. Same thing as Custodio, which is a $50 per year subscription that Tom's going to talk about.
Yeah, that's my favorite one that I've worked with so far. I have 12 and 9-year-old boys. 12-year-olds get curious about things. So that's the one that I like. And their support's very good. I've worked with them. It's a little more granular. It'll do some of your basic filtering, screen time, things of that nature. It'll also break it down to how much time they spend on a certain app. It's another tiered service, so the more you pay for, the more features you get. I believe one of the features it'll let you see what your child texts. So it'll monitor SMS or text messages. It will not let you see what they've posted to social media, but it will let you know if they post. So if you feel like you maybe want to check up on their account or see what they've posted. But I like it. Now the catch, there's not one size fits all, right? The catch is it won't work on an HSE rented iPad. The reason being is if you start it, because it's a management, you would control it from your smartphone. So there's got to be a management profile on an iPad. Because we manage our iPads, there's already a profile on there, we can only have one. But if your student has a phone, I absolutely would keep that one in mind. It's pretty good. If you have any, sorry? Yes. And if that's something you want to reach out to Jeff and I about, by all means, we'll be happy to answer questions as much as we can.
And I'll tell you that some of these that we have catches on, they operate on a VPN tunnel. So they are going to go to its own website, check the filters and all that stuff and work. As I said earlier, we try to block the VPNs in our district because most of the time those VPNs are trying to bypass. We're required, if we provide the internet, we must filter the internet. So I know that some of those apps are being filtered, but it doesn't work because we have to filter it. But there are apps out there that will work with it that you can say, but you can turn off do not do it during these times. Or you're able to put on it when you're on this network, it won't filter because it knows it's a filtered network.
And if you have any, if you find, if it's not Custodio, if you find another one you like, reach out to me and I'll let you know if it's something that will work in our environment. It's kind of a catch-22. I get it. A lot of parents want to do these types of secure moves. I also understand, as Jeff said, if you put a parent control app on your phone and we're not filtering your student when they're here, then we're violating federal rules. So it gets tricky, but we'll be happy to help you figure out.
I wanted to jump back to screen time. Don't go gangbusters on everything. So like we had somebody go on the screen time and set it up that their total usage time of their iPad was 20 minutes. That didn't really make it through, what could be first period. And so just keep in mind that some of the restrictions that you might put on, some of the time limits you might put on certain things could impact what they're doing in the classroom. But when they do it, they do have categories. So you can probably not put. You can put like education could be unlimited. Games could then be filtered or time sensitive. But just keep in mind that you might get a call from the teacher or something like that saying, "Hey, by the way, what you did might be causing some side effects."
I'm sorry to interrupt, but what's the difference between what we're seeing right here and these and the different apps that you're talking about?
So screen time will allow you to control the iPad as far as how much time they can spend on an app and when they can access their apps and when they cannot. But it does not filter. So it doesn't say that I don't want them to be on social media sites or anything like that. So
What's the restriction?
the restrictions have a little bit of control, but not much. So like for one thing, one example is it can filter Safari, but if they have Chrome or Firefox, it won't filter it. But Safari, it's block the content that Apple deems inappropriate, or you put in specific sites to block, or you block all sites and you only put the sites that they're allowed to get to, which is, that one is really hard to manage because you don't know what the sites the teachers are. Where you, if you pair that with like a Disney Circle or whatever, that's also then helping you with the internet piece. So with Apple or with Circle and with Custodio and some of those things that we mentioned, you can say, like, I don't want them to have access to these types of sites. So no social media, and so it will block it, or no YouTube, or no inappropriate types of things. And so that helps as an added layer at home.
It's similar to what they see in school. Like our filter is a third-party service. Like we don't set the opposite block every site. So definitions update nightly. So every site, not every site, like millions of sites, they're categorized. Education, sports, whatever the category might be. So it'll be very similar. You can say, okay, I want to block anything that's adult or alcohol, or you mean whatever topic you want to go with.
All right, so that was the end. I think I said everything that was in my mind to say. So we're turning it open then to questions. Yes?
Is there a way to see what they're typing in Google with any of these? Like what they're searching?
Difficult.
That's difficult. And the reason being, we can say that the last 4 or 5 years, Google is all about privacy. So they encrypt their searches. Anything that's like going online to banking, SSL or HTTPS, it's awfully hard to break inside of an HTTPS packet, if you will. That's, we fight that all the time. So in terms of like monitoring searches, off the top of my head, I can tell you it's very difficult. I can look into it, but I don't know if anything will actually capture searches.
Sometimes what you can do is go to Google on their device and just put the cursor there. Or type the letter A or B or whatever, and it will come up with the last few searches that they've done.
What about, I have another question. What about, you mentioned text messaging. Can I set it to where they can only text message me or my husband? On their iPad, yeah.
I think I will look on my phone. I think yes, maybe.
And then we have, just this morning, we got some text messages from another student that weren't really appropriate. So I went and blocked. Is that all I can do? So now she just won't get his text messages. Will he get a message that says you've been blocked?
I think they just get delivered, but like not delivered. So
Yeah.
they don't necessarily know, but they just don't see them.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's only blocked for that specific phone number or that specific email account that they're doing it from. If they open up another one, they'd be able to do it that way.
And if it's a classmate, I would say, talk with the teacher, email a teacher and just put them aware
Okay.
that, if it's something that is coming up in the middle.
Yeah.
Just so that they can have a conversation with that parent.
If it's a younger student, like my kids, I don't even let them have messaging on their iPads until they're in 5th grade.
Right,
I just went inside
but I'd
and
like
said
to be able to message them, I would like to be able to.
Yeah.
So that's, and I did bring it up to the teacher, but it happened outside of school hours, so I think maybe I need to have a discussion with the parent. So, she'd probably want to know.
Yep.
Two recommendation on like Life 360, like that app or other apps like that. Put them on child's phone.
I mean, that's like location tracking and all of that. I put it on my kid's phone,
Any other recommendations like Life 360 or is that like the one that's free?
Well, if it's iPhones, you also have Find My Friends that you can do that with. There are other ones out there. So yeah, you do have those options. I would put it on there. The other thing, especially if we're talking phone, because phones are typically always connected. So phones are always connected. Phones are always connected to the internet. It's also a good I lost my phone type of thing, and I don't remember where it's at too. we've definitely used something like that, just a ping a phone that's hit somewhere in the house. Right.
Do any of those tracking programs work if you turn geo-tracking off, like you mentioned to do earlier?
If you turn geo-tracking off, like geo-tracking would be like if you turn it off on the camera. So you can enable like location services or geo-tracking on certain apps and not other apps. So you could keep it on. I know that we have one of the people that we work with. Everything's with Apple is one of my friends. She'd be able to see where they're at. But their kids sometimes would turn off location tracking, and then so she would send a text that says, "You have 5 minutes to get that turned back on, otherwise you're grounded." And then it's like, "Oh, my phone was off." Well, these phones never go off. I mean, we know that. But yeah, so there are sometimes certain ways around that.
What do you guys recommend for Snapchat? Because you guys have mentioned that we should monitor that. How do you do that when it goes away?
You just don't have it, what's up with it?
Yeah.
Snapchat is, we call it the sexting app. I mean, unfortunately, there are a lot of nudes and things that come across there. It does come across. We always recommend on any app that you have that you follow them as well, and that they have to accept the friendship, so that way you're seeing everything that they're posting. The students, a lot of times, there's apps, because usually if students screenshot something, it will alert them that they've screenshotted it. But now there's like apps and all kinds of ways to bypass that. Snapchat is hands down my least favorite app. But if you go to Safe Smart Social website, it will walk you through all the apps that these students are using and give you details about what to look for. It'll show you like that hidden profile that I was talking about. So that's a really good resource that we use a lot as law enforcement, and we tell parents to use.
Safe Smart Social?
Safe Smart Social, yes.
You don't use that for school, like Snapchat is not needed for school. Absolutely not.
It's
The social.
Depending on it, like, they just don't get it. We
Well,
just
yeah.
moved from overseas, and I've been gone for 7 years, so when you mentioned in 2012, there's everything right, so that was the time when I left with my small children, and now I came back, my daughter is 8th grade, and my son is in the 10th, I'm 7th grade and 10th. And, like, I'm in shock to see what's happening, and like I said, we came to school, we were given the iPads, my kids didn't have a phone. And now, like, I have a iPad, and I'm overwhelmed.
But Snapchat itself, like, it's blocked if they're in school. So they wouldn't be able
It's
to.
not at school, so we cannot use it at school.
So does anybody know, I've tried to do some research with Snapchat and I haven't found an answer. How do I look to see the private, like those messages that they're just sending one-on-one? Not,
That
so I can
website,
get
that
an
website will
account.
walk you through, and it'll give you examples of how you can see everything.
Because when they do a message, it goes away. You've got a trail, but then once they have already
Then they
clicked
can
on
delete
it.
it. And that's the problem with Snapchat, is it goes away, they can delete it, and then you really just can't see it.
Right. I just wanted to know if there was if anybody knew of a workaround around that, but.
Unless you really like hack your kid's phone, like you literally have to hire somebody to hack their phones.
And that's what I'm looking at.
I
just
say, if you have
my
any question and you
discipline.
don't want them, just delete it.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and a lot of times, like, we'll get called to houses because the kid doesn't want to give the mom the cell phone, or anything like that, like, we get called for all kinds of things. But, like, we want you guys to feel empowered, like, that phone is on their phone. They don't have to, just because that's their iPad for school, they don't have to have it. Like, you guys are in charge, and you could say, oh, we're not gonna have this app. Right? I don't think this is a
WhatsApp
good
is
app.
on, WhatsApp is on #1, that was popular overseas, so we were dealing with WhatsApp living in 3 different countries.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really strong one.
One thing we do with ours too, just this parent, not a professional emergency, but in their contacts, so if they're texting folks, I make my kids use their friends' real names. Because if I have to call Tracy or if I have to call their teacher, I don't want to say they're really having problems with Gummy Bear 475. Right? Like, I want to be able to say, I might not know who such and such is, but then in the company field, I have them put what their social media name is. So then if it is Mocha Latte, then I can follow them on Facebook or Snapchat to see kind of what's going on there too. So that's just my freedom as a parent, but that way it helps me if I'm trying to track down who the kids are in both areas. It also helps me when I am monitoring their text that I can float through, because again, what questions would we have at the dinner table if you wanted to drop your kids off at a new friend's house? Or if they were going to go to a slumber party or party, you want to know, hey,
Who's gonna be there?
who's going to be there, right? Depending on the household, do they have dogs, do they have peanut allergies, do they have guns? Like whatever questions you would ask normally, you want to be able to do that in an online capacity as well. And if we're not asking who our kids are hanging out with, in person or online, those are the conversations we want to have. And one of the best tricks in terms of social emotional learning, mental health, is talk to your kids when they're in the car. There's some information about, having that proximity, but not looking right, I know we're trying to teach empathy and eye contact, but you get a lot of information out of kiddos in the car, so continue to have these conversations all the time, but that's just knowing their online name, but their real name. When I flip through, if it is, hey, Stephanie came up, but I've never heard them talk about Stephanie before, then I can at least ask, hey, did you meet someone? How do you know her? Those sort of things. But if I don't know their real names, it doesn't help me at all.
Another site that I knew I forgot something, was Common Sense Media, which was illustrated in the Will Ferrell commercial. That's a great app or site to reference apps, and it'll tell you what they are. They'll tell you why it's rated a certain way. It's rated by age, what's the appropriate age. But it takes twofold measures. What do parents rate it as, and what do kids rate it as? So you can kind of see both. But the one thing I like about it is Common Sense Media existed before smartphones and smart devices. It was rating books, it was rating movies, it was rating TV shows, and it's still doing all of those things, plus apps. So my kid comes home and they're like, we want to go and see the new Men in Black movie, I can see the commercials and all that stuff, but we hop on there to say, all right, what are we going to expect if we take our kids to go see it, if we don't go see it beforehand? So that's another good tool that we have. There was one other thing that came to mind, and I'm sure it's going to jump out in just a second.
Is there any way we could guide teachers to look more at the Common Sense Media rating rather than the iTunes rating? Like when they send home that chart that has the app name and then the description and then the rating, it always, it might comment to go to Common Sense Media, but when you look up the iTunes rating, it might say 6 and up, but when you go to Common Sense Media, they're really saying it should be for 12 and up or 13 and up. So then I struggle because I don't want my kid to have that. And the teacher has never given me trouble. They've always said, if you don't want it, you don't have to have it. But then my kid has to work on someone else's. It's a hassle and they're left out. And I don't really care.
Right.
But I know it bothers them. And I think it would be really helpful if teachers would really be looking at that rating rather than the iTunes rating.
It's a really good suggestion. Yeah. So, and maybe it's one of those that maybe they should look at it. Maybe we should suggest they look at it first to see what the other people are saying before.
There's been quite a few, there's at least 4 or 5 apps that were on that list that iTunes said it was okay.
Right.
But based on Common Sense Media, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that could be kind of guided to the teachers.
We can put that in the direction. 2 more things I knew I was going to forget real quick. One, I was doing some quick searches. I don't think you can limit iMessages just to certain people. You can block people, but I don't think you can limit it to just certain people. I couldn't find it in the quick search I did. But the other thing I wanted to point out is, I already said my kids don't have phones, and so they're connected to the device when they're connected to Wi-Fi. If they want to go to a friend's house, we only allow the iPad to travel to certain friends' house. If we know the parents really well, and we know that they monitor the screen time usage, and they're not just going to let them go up to the bedrooms or whatever, the iPads go there. We don't know that, and we haven't had a chance to have a conversation with the families. They don't go. So that's just another quick tip I should have put in there.
I just
Yes.
had a real quick couple comments. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you guys for doing this, because I don't know about you all,
talking about porn, it's such a hard conversation to have with our kids. It's so awkward, but there's an amazing website that I use a lot, and it's called Fight the New Drug. I don't know if you all have heard of that. And they have a really neat documentary on there, and it's in 3 sections, and it's 30 minutes each, and it's called Brain, Heart, World. And we watched it with, he was 13 last year, our son, and he's mortified. Like, I can't believe my parents are making me watch. My mom, he already hates that I'm a therapist and all that. But I said, will you just let's just watch the first one on your brain, what porn does to your brain. And I said, after that, if you are just completely mortified, I knew you wouldn't be, but then you don't have to go on. And he literally sat there the whole night on Friday night. We were up to like 12:30. He wanted to watch each part. Because once he saw what porn does to the brain, he was like, well, what's it do to your heart? And then it talks, in the heart part, it talks about what it does to your relationships and how much it affects, in a